I swear, I never dared to dream of the day I would conceive a child with Li Shaotang. Our child, indeed. The doctor has confirmed it. You are 5 weeks pregnant. Yet, you wander about with this little one, and while the doctor assures me that the baby is resilient, you must exercise greater caution moving forward. My Omega nephew has fled from his wedding, compelling my family to force me into a marriage of convenience. On the eve of the nuptials, I overheard the groom lamenting. Who would want to marry a beta man 8 years my senior? Thus, I entered into a pact with him. Upon my nephew's return, we would part ways. 2 years later, my nephew indeed returned. I affixed my signature to the agreement, removed my wedding ring, and began packing my belongings to soar away. Yet he frantically scoured every corner in search of me. 1. Who would want to marry an old beta man 8 years their senior? As I raised my hand to knock on the door, the disdainful remark echoed from within the room. The speaker's tone dripped with contempt and disapproval. Another slightly older gentleman interjected, "Your partner has run away. Whether you like it or not, you must marry." Although Ji Qingchun is a substitute groom beta, he is refined and cultured, a university professor whose demeanor rivals that of any Omega. You do well to show him the respect he deserves when you meet him. My father and uncle stood beside me, their faces reflecting discomfort upon hearing these words. With an air of nonchalance, I smiled serenely and adjusted my glasses atop my nose. Knocking lightly, I then pushed the door open. The Li father and son stood momentarily stunned. I greeted them with a warm smile. "Mr. Li, young Master Li, it's been a while." "Ah, Qingchun, you've finally arrived," they responded, engaging in polite conversation as if nothing were amiss. Mr. Li introduced me. "Professor Ji, this is my son, Li Shaotang. I hope you will take good care of him." I leisurely allowed my gaze to wander toward my betrothed, Li Shaotang, the eldest son of the Li family, aged 24. He stood at an impressive height of 190 centimeters, dressed in a striped business suit with a black shirt beneath, his muscular form exuding strength. His appearance was impeccable, with defined features and deep-set eyes, radiating an overwhelming aura of masculinity. Truly an S-class alpha. No wonder he looked down upon me, this older beta. Undeterred by the earlier offensive remarks, I bestowed him a gentle smile and extended my hand. "I look forward to working with you." Li Shaotang momentarily appeared taken aback, then pursed his lips before shaking my hand. This was our first encounter. A few days later, I registered my marriage with Li Shaotang and partook in a grand wedding ceremony. Originally intended for my nephew Ji Yunji, the event was repurposed when he fled, abandoning everything in pursuit of his dreams. The news of our union had already swept through the business world, leaving us with no choice but to proceed. For the sake of family honor, my grandfather and uncle personally intervened, insisting that I take Ji Yunji's place as Li Shaotang's bride, as I was the only unmarried adult within the family. After the wedding, Li Shaotang produced a pair of identical contracts, stating firmly, "Let me be clear, you are not my type." My father said if Ji Yunji can be found, I can exchange you for him. Until then, we shall establish 3 rules. Do not think of this as anything more than a pretense, and do not interfere in my personal matters. I readily acquiesced. Understood. I feel the same way. Marrying him was never my desire, so reaching a mutual understanding was ideal. The contract stipulated that should Ji Yunji return, I would unconditionally sign for divorce, of course, with financial compensation from him. Quite agreeable. Indeed, Li Shaotang nodded in satisfaction, signing his name and pressing his fingerprint. "I shall sign first and you can keep the contract." With that, he left the marital home without a backward glance. 2 years later, in a daze between sleep and wakefulness, I felt a tickling sensation on my lips and face. Struggling to lift my eyelids, I was met with Li Shaotang's handsome visage, his stubble grazing my skin as he slipped his hand beneath my nightgown. "Get up, breakfast is ready," he urged. Irritated, I withdrew his hand and turned over, seeking rest once more. Li Shaotang chuckled mischievously, pressing down on me. "Still not up? Do you need a little stimulation?" I groggily replied, "Stop bothering me. I just want to sleep a bit longer." I had been sifting through literature for days, working late into the night. Li Shaotang persisted. "How long has it been since you paid me any attention? You promised to accompany me to the car races today. Get up, or I might just take your pants off." 2. I quickly seized his hand to halt his advance. All right, I'm getting up. Let go." If he succeeded in his antics, I wouldn't accomplish anything else today. Li Shaotang playfully nibbled on my earlobe, his grip firm yet gentle. "I'll let you off the hook for now, but you owe me a favor tonight." He half-dragged, half-carried me to the bathroom. As usual, he prepared mouthwash and squeezed toothpaste for me. "Hurry up. I'll reheat the pancakes, he called out, darting to the dining room. Standing before the mirror brushing my teeth, I reflected on the events of the past 2 years. When we first married, Li Shaotang and I were like oil and water. Who could have imagined that we would evolve into such a close-knit pair? It all began a year and a half ago when we attended his grandfather's 70th birthday celebration in the neighboring Jiangcheng. That night, after indulging in alcohol, Li Shaotang succumbed to temptation. Ignoring my protests, he overwhelmed me, and I found myself incapacitated for 2 days and nights. Upon regaining his senses, he expressed no remorse, only surprise at how pleasurable our encounter had been. I, being of a certain age and now legally wed to him, couldn't very well cry out for marital rape. I had no choice but to accept the situation. I calmly informed Li Shaotang this was merely an accident. Such occurrences cannot happen again. However, he took it lightly and soon attempted to coax me again. I retorted, "Didn't you say I'm not your type and that you don't want this to be real?" Li Shaotang, ever the rogue, countered, "As long as it's enjoyable, who cares about types? Let's just take what we need from each other." His intentions were clear. He wanted a friends with benefits arrangement, and I couldn't help but find the absurdity of it all amusing. As a beta with little desire, I could not fathom the alpha's mindset of thinking with his lower half. Yet, no matter how I resisted, Li Shaotang relentlessly pursued me until he succeeded again. I have always believed in going with the flow, preferring to avoid unnecessary conflict. After a few encounters, I found myself somewhat enamored. After all, there was no real loss, and having a warm partner in bed was not so bad. Eventually, I reluctantly accepted him and moved into the marital home prepared by the Li family. As our physical connection deepened, so too did our rapport in other aspects. We spent more time together, and 6 months into our marriage, we truly began to understand one another. As an archaeology major, I possessed numerous invaluable ancient texts and artifacts, which led me to manage my household without hired help. I typically only tidied up on weekends, while my meals were haphazardly taken care of at school. Due to my irregular eating habits, my stomach had become sensitive, prompting Li Shaotang to learn how to make soups to improve my health, often preparing my favorite dishes. I was astonished that this affluent young man could cook. He proudly stated, "During my studies abroad, none of the maids could cook well, so I taught myself." Impressive, right? Occasionally, to spice things up, Li Shaotang would take me sailing, skiing, or to see the auroras, with the underlying intent of changing venues for our escapades. Naturally, he would also indulge my interests. I adored visiting museums, watching suspense films, and practicing pottery, and he accompanied me in all these pursuits. Each morning, he would return from his run, having prepared breakfast to rouse me from slumber. Although we were ostensibly mere bedmates, our current dynamic resembled that of a typical married couple. Yet, I remained acutely aware of the agreement binding us. I constantly reminded myself not to become too emotionally involved. Losing my body was inconsequential, but I could not afford to let my heart succumb. 3. After finishing breakfast, Li Shaotang and I set off for the racetrack. He had previously enjoyed motorcycle racing and even formed his own team. There was an incident where he crashed, resulting in a broken leg. During that time, I took a leave of absence to care for him, and after a week of enduring his complaints, he playfully clung to my waist, saying, "Wife, I'm going crazy. I want you." I shot him a glare. "You want what? Just lie still," he implored. "Would you please come and sit beside me?" "No." Half a month later, he fully recovered, and from that moment onward, he disbanded the racing team and ceased all involvement with car racing. Occasionally, Li Shaotang succumbed to his cravings and would drag me along to watch the races. We took our seats in the VIP area. The motorcycles sped down the track, creating a whirlwind as they roared past. I had little interest in such extreme sports, stifling yawns as I watched, while Li Shaotang remained fervently engrossed, our fingers interlocked. I took out my phone with one hand to scroll through messages and suddenly noticed a direct message from my cousin. "Bro, I found that guy Ji Yunch." My pupils constricted sharply, instantly awakening my senses. I instinctively glanced at Li Shaotang, who was fixated on the race. I withdrew my hand, and he turned to me, asking, "What's wrong?" "I need to use the restroom." I stood up and he followed suit. "I'll accompany you." "No need. I know where it is. You can continue watching." The race was nearing its final lap, and the racers were gearing up for a sprint. Li Shaotang relented, obediently sitting back down. I hurried to a quiet corner and called my cousin. Once connected, I succinctly inquired, "Where is Ji Yunch?" My cousin chattered away, "That brat is chasing some singer's dream, got scammed to the point of losing his pants, and ended up performing at a country bar. A couple of days ago, my dad's people found him, and both his father and mine went to pick him up. He should be back today." My heart jolted. Today? Yes. His family feels embarrassed and hasn't told anyone else. I'm only telling you this because I'm keeping it from my dad. A whirlwind of emotions surged within me. I knew Ji Yunj would return eventually, but I never anticipated it would be so sudden. My cousin continued to ramble on. That brat has caused you so much trouble. You, a staunch anti-marriage advocate, were forced to marry that hard-to-please young master of the Li family because of him. What a ridiculous situation. Don't let him off the hook when he comes back. My ears buzzed, and I could no longer comprehend his words. I absently muttered, "Thanks for letting me know," before hanging up. The arena was alive with cheers as the race concluded. My heart sank further. Ji Yunj's return meant the fulfillment of the pact between me and Li Shaotang. Hadn't I already prepared myself for this? Why was my mood so oppressive at this moment? I wandered back in a daze. As I turned a corner, I unexpectedly heard a series of soft sobs. I paused and peeked around the wall. A handsome alpha clad in racing gear stood face to face with a slender beta. The beta's shoulders shook as he wept quietly. I recognized them. The alpha was Xiao Lei, a somewhat renowned racer, and his boyfriend was a beta. Earlier, when Li Shaotang and I had come to watch the race, they had come over to greet us, expressing their desire to surpass challenges and achieve happiness together. I overheard Xiao Lei, sounding a bit helpless, say, "My family has always opposed our relationship. My dad told you that as long as you could conceive, he would consider letting me marry you, but it's been 3 years, and there's been no news from your end. I can't do anything about that." The beta's voice was hoarse as he replied, "You said you loved me for who I am, regardless of having offspring. That was before. Things have changed now." Though I was curious, I felt it inappropriate to eavesdrop further. Just as I was about to walk away, a delicate omega came running. "Darling," he exclaimed. He threw his arms around the racer alpha's arm and, displeased, barked at the beta, "What are you doing here with Xiao Lei? Don't you understand the idea of parting amicably? Do I have to say something harsh?" The beta stared at the omega in bewilderment. "Xiao Lei he is." Xiao Lei awkwardly scratched his face, while the omega proudly declared, "I am Xiao Lei's fiancé. Our families have met. Please have some self-awareness. How could a beta who can't bear children think of marrying an alpha? Are you trying to lead others to extinction?" The beta looked as if struck by lightning. Incredulity etched on his face as he asked Xiao Lei, "Is what he said true?" Xiao Lei barely managed a whispering yes. The beta staggered back a few steps, humiliated, and walked away, covering his mouth. Xiao Lei watched him leave, troubled, yet he did not pursue him. The omega clung to his arm, playfully threatening him not to rekindle old flames with the beta, and Xiao Lei could only comfort him repeatedly. After they departed, I stood still for quite some time. The scene I had just witnessed mirrored my own situation with Li Shaotang and Ji Yunj perfectly. To outsiders, an AB relationship was seen as such a disgraceful existence, with being a beta equating to the end of lineage for others. I chuckled bitterly as I removed my glasses and rubbed my nose. Taking a deep breath to ensure I had regained my composure, I returned to the VIP area with an expression of normalcy. Li Shaotang joyfully informed me that the team he supported had won. I smiled and replied, "That's good to hear." Li Shaotang wrapped his arms around me and asked, "Is there still time to visit the museum? There seems to be a new exhibition this weekend." I shook my head. "Not today. I'm a bit tired." I truly was weary. In the past, I could pull all-nighters without feeling fatigued, but now, a few days of it left me drained, unable to muster any energy. Time does not spare anyone. I could no longer deny my age. "All right then, let us eat and head back to that private restaurant you love?" "Sure, that sounds good." The private restaurant was small and tranquil, run by a charming omega. The owner personally served us our dishes. I noticed his slightly protruding belly and said, "Take care of yourself, boss. We're old acquaintances now." The owner blushed and smiled. "It's fine. This is my third child. I'm used to it by now. Enjoy your meal." After he left, I contemplatively watched his retreating figure. Li Shaotang served me some boiled fish slices and noticed I wasn't eating. He asked, "What is wrong?" I slowly turned my gaze to him. Li Shaotang was now 26, in the prime of his youth. As the eldest son in his family, the Li family surely desired an heir. I deliberately asked, "Omega are generally fertile. Isn't getting pregnant easy for them?" Li Shaotang rested his chin on his hand, winking suggestively at me. "What's wrong? Are you envious?" "I'll make an effort tonight." I chuckled. "Don't bother. I'm just a beta." "So what if you're a beta? If we do it right, you can still conceive." He added, "But honestly, if we were doing this every day and you were an omega, you would have twins by now." I raised an eyebrow, self-mockingly stating, "Unfortunately, I'm not an omega." While it was not absolutely impossible for a beta to conceive, the odds were exceedingly low, and the offspring might not necessarily be an alpha. Just like Shaolei and his partner, miracles did not favor everyone. Unaware of my inner thoughts, he urged, "Enough of that. Just eat, or it'll get cold and smell fishy." I ate without tasting, already resolved in my heart. Flowers do not bloom forever, and no one enjoys endless good fortune. The beautiful dream was over. It was time to awaken. That night, Li Shaotang, insatiable, sought me out, and I responded with more enthusiasm than usual. It would be the last time. I wanted to leave a memory. The next day, Li Shaotang arranged to play golf with his business partners and initially invited me along, but I made an excuse to decline. Last night, I arranged for a moving company, and upon their arrival, they efficiently organized and packed all my belongings in just an hour and a half. I retrieved the agreement from the safe, and the sight of Lsh's signature alongside that vivid red fingerprint dispelled any lingering feelings of reluctance within me. How resolute he had been when he signed. Thus, I had no reason for hesitation now. I picked up a fountain pen and with a flourish inscribed my name, sealing it with my fingerprint. I left one copy of the agreement on Lsh's desk in his study and removed the platinum wedding band from my ring finger, placing it atop the document. Glancing at the time, I noted that Lsh's would not return until the afternoon. Without uttering a word, I slipped away. What would his reaction be? Would he feel a sense of loss, or would he be enraged? I shook my head at my own self-indulgence. Lsh's had always favored the soft and endearing Omega, and my acceptance as a beta man of advanced years was merely a matter of convenience, too easy to resist. Why should I humiliate myself further? I conceded that I had harbored unrealistic fantasies about Lsh's, believing that his feelings for me extended beyond mere physical release to something genuine. Yet the reality was that I was not only older than him but also a beta who struggled with fertility. Our marriage had been born out of necessity. With the true owner, Yaoi, having returned, it was time for me to relinquish my hold. I was not yet fully ready to move on and wished to avoid hearing news of them for the time being. I had planned to email the school leadership, requesting all the accumulated leave I had accrued over the years in one go. At 3 in the afternoon, Lsh's sent me a message. "Wife, do you want to eat at home or go out tonight?" The term wife stung sharply. His true wife would soon be Yaoi. I composed myself and replied calmly. "You should eat with your friends? No need to rush back." He inquired. "Why? Aren't you bored at home?" I chose not to respond further. Instead, I swapped out my SIM card and messaged my family from the new number, informing them I was going on a trip and that they should not search for me during this time. With my bags packed, I set off alone, intending to explore the unprotected ancient villages, both for academic research and to lift my spirits. After a day of driving, I found a hotel to rest. That evening, my father called. He immediately asked, "Did you tell Sh's you went on a trip?" I retorted, "What about Lsh's? He has been looking for you everywhere." Almost frantic. "What's going on between you two? Did you have a fight?" I rubbed my temples. "Have you heard? Yaoi is back." "I think I heard something about that. But what does it have to do with you and Sh's?" I replied earnestly, "Tell Lsh's that since Yaoi has returned, we are to fulfill our agreement. He will understand." "What agreement?" "You should call him directly and explain." I felt exhausted. "Dad, I've been driving all day. I'm very tired. I can't talk right now." I hung up and turned off my phone to sleep. The next day, I reached out to a junior from university, Xiaoqiu, who was also a beta. He had recently established a private studio and had flexible hours. Upon learning of my plans to investigate the ancient villages, he eagerly offered to join me.
We met in town.
And he thoughtfully arranged for a local guide to accompany us into the village. I had expected an older local to be our guide, but to my surprise, it was a young and handsome alpha. "Hello, Mr. J, you can call me Ahu." He greeted me with a radiant smile and a warm handshake. I reciprocated politely, "Hello, thank you for your guidance." Xiaoqiu informed me. Ahu has been a tour guide here for quite some time. With him leading us, we can avoid many detours. Since Xiaoqiu had made the arrangements, I had no objections. The village was not accessible by vehicle, so we proceeded on foot. Ahu led the way, and when we reached a rugged path, he kindly turned back to assist me. Xiaoqiu teased him, "Ahu, why do you only help Mr. J and not me?" Ahu's dark complexion flushed slightly as he hurriedly extended a hand toward Xiaoqiu, who waved it off, saying, "I'm just joking. I'm out and about all day, unlike our senior who is so refined. Just take care of him." Upon arriving in the village, I felt as though I had opened the door to a new world. The air was thick with tranquility and antiquity, with buildings boasting centuries of history. The villagers regarded us with curiosity, and Ahu communicated with them in the local dialect. The warm-hearted villagers quickly welcomed us and even permitted us to enter their homes for a visit. I busied myself with photography and video recording, but without any signal. My phone remained silent for most of the day. In the afternoon, we returned to town for a meal. Having not consumed a single drop since the morning, I was met with a table laden with local delicacies. Yet my appetite eluded me. Ahu inquired, "Mr. J, is the food not to your liking?" I feigned no. Perhaps it's just that I'm not used to it. My stomach isn't quite cooperating. For the past 2 days, I had been feeling bloated and experiencing acid reflux. I forced myself to sip a bowl of soup and nibble a few bites of food. Just as I was eating, my phone rang. I picked it up to see the IP address was from H-ish. Was it a call from family? I pressed the answer button. "Hello? Where have you run off to? I've been unable to reach you." Eng's voice was laced with urgency and anger. I moved aside to take the call, replying, "Oh, the signal is poor. What do you need? What are you up to? Why did you suddenly decide to travel? You should have told me. I could have taken leave to accompany you." Zing fired off questions in rapid succession. I suspected he was confused about the situation, so I calmly explained, "Mr. L, my nephew J.Y. has returned. According to our agreement, our marriage ends here. I have already instructed a lawyer to initiate the proceedings, and once I return, we can finalize the divorce certificate." There was a brief silence on the other end before Zing erupted in a fit of rage. "What are you saying? You want to divorce me? You dare to divorce me? Clarify your words." I furrowed my brow and held the phone slightly away from my ear, rubbing my earlobe. What was this reaction? I felt utterly perplexed. Once he had finished shouting, I continued, "Mr. L, you drafted the agreement and signed it first. We agreed that once J.Y. returned, we would divorce. Don't tell me you've forgotten?" On the other end, Zing stuttered, "But you are my." I adopted a businesslike tone, saying, "Please expedite the compensation you promised, as I have matters to attend to. I must end this call." I hung up, but Zing called back immediately. I answered tersely, "What is it now?" Zing adopted a different tone, "Wife. Did I do something wrong to upset you?" Why was he still calling me wife? I patiently explained, "You haven't done anything wrong, and I am not upset. I am merely fulfilling our promise. Also, please refrain from calling me wife. J.Y. is the one." As I spoke, Shiokyu approached and asked, "Senior, do you want to go tomorrow?" He noticed I was on the phone and quickly closed his mouth. However, Zing had heard his voice and flew into another rage. "Who are you with? Which man is it?" "It's my junior from university." I realized halfway through that I didn't need to justify myself to him, and I shifted my tone. "This is my personal matter and none of your concern. Mr. L. JQNGCHN. It had been a long time since he had called me by my full name, and his voice seemed to burn with fury. "You dare to put a green hat on me? I will not let you off." How absurd. It is indeed a perplexing situation with him. I decisively hung up the phone, and I shall not answer if he calls again. In the afternoon, we continued our journey to another village. Having barely eaten a few bites at noon, I began to feel dizzy and nauseous after walking for a while. Not wanting to worry Xiaoqi and the others, I endured the discomfort in silence. Consequently, upon returning to the inn, I felt utterly drained. I collapsed onto the bed, falling into a deep sleep that even thunder could not rouse me from. I am uncertain how long I slumbered, but a thunderous knocking on the door jolted me awake. Groggily, I opened my eyes to a brightly lit room and glanced at my phone on the pillow. It was already 10 in the morning. I had overslept. Panic struck me instantly. The knocking persisted, accompanied by Xiaoqi's anxious calls. "Senior, are you all right? Senior." Responding with a coming, I hurriedly slipped on my slippers. Just as I stood upright, a wave of dizziness washed over me, causing the room to spin. I quickly steadied myself against the bedside table. Could it be low blood sugar? Pondered. After gathering my composure, I put on my glasses and opened the door. "I'm sorry. I began to apologize to Xiaoqi but was taken aback by the stormy expression of Li Shaotang behind him. My heart sank. What on earth is he doing here? Li Shaotang's hair was disheveled, his eyes bloodshot, and the stubble on his chin indicated he had not slept well for several nights. I inhaled sharply, just as I opened my mouth to speak. He shoved past Xiaoqi and advanced towards me like a predator. He pushed me back into the room and slammed the door shut, locking it with a distinct click. Xiaoqi shouted from outside, "Senior, I've explained to your husband that we're just friends. Please calm him down." Inside the room, neither of us spoke. Li Shaotang's gaze was fixed on me with an intensity that felt almost predatory. My initial confidence began to wane under his scrutiny. Striving to maintain my composure, I averted my eyes and walked over to the small table to pour myself some water. What brings you here, Mr. Li? I inquired. His voice emerged through gritted teeth. Come back with me. I took a few sips of warm water and gently set the cup down. I made myself quite clear over the phone yesterday, I replied. Li Shaotang stepped closer, pressing his hand on my shoulder to turn me to face him. That ridiculous agreement is null and void. It's been 2 years. I attempted to shake off his grip, but he held firm. With a resigned smile, I said, Mr. Li, you are a businessman. Please adhere to the spirit of the contract. To hell with the spirit of the contract. He retorted, you cannot leave me. Since you married me, you will always be my wife. His visit confirmed that he still harbored feelings for me, but it was not enough to sway my resolve. I remained unmoved as I replied, do not speak of forever. You can overturn matters from 2 years ago, and in years to come, you will change as well. I will not. I have never cared for anyone else. My heart belongs solely to you, and I shall never waver. His fervent gaze bore into me, yet I remained unwavering. Mr. Li, I am 34 years old, not an inexperienced youth. I have witnessed too many examples. Marriage ultimately relies not on affection but on conscience. Li Shaotang's face registered shock. Are you implying I lack conscience? I do not, I asserted, pushing his hand off my shoulder, each word resonating with conviction. I am a beta with difficulties conceiving. Even if you do not marry Ji-Yun-go now, there will always be many omegas for you to choose from. The elders of the Li family may have arranged this marriage as a temporary measure, but they never intended for me to bear your lineage. From the outset, our union was a mistake. Li Shaotang exclaimed, there is no mistake. Do not bring up heirs and lineage. All I want is you. I recalled the scene at the racing club. Didn't Xiao Lei think the same initially? Ultimately, he succumbed to reality. With a heart like stone, I stated, people change. Do not make grand declarations. Our separation now is a prudent loss mitigation. Better to endure short-term pain than prolonged suffering. Rather than face a future of animosity, it is wiser to preserve each other's dignity. Seeing that I was impervious to his words, Li Shaotang clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. So, you are resolute in leaving me, is that it? I am merely executing your initial plan, I began, but before I could finish, he abruptly lifted me off the ground. I felt a rush of dizziness as he hoisted me onto his shoulder. What are you doing? Put me down. I protested, stretching my arms to brace against his broad back, but he effortlessly restrained me with one hand. Since you refuse to come willingly, I shall carry you back, he declared resolutely, opening the door with a flourish. Ignoring Xiao Qi's astonished expression, he strode forward. Xiao Qi stammered in shock. Senior. I called for help. Xiao Qi. Save me. Xiao Qi rushed to intercept Li Shaotang. Mr. Li, please calm down. Let us talk this through. Li Shaotang responded with an air of authority. This is a personal matter. Outsiders should refrain from meddling. Xiao Qi, at a loss, watched as Li Shaotang sidestepped him and continued on. I struggled, losing my glasses in the process, and desperately struck at Li Shaotang while shouting, Put me down. You have no right to force me. Let me go. Just as he was about to descend the stairs, a shadow darted past. With a loud thud, an assailant struck Li Shaotang. He stumbled back, releasing me. My feet barely touched the ground when he yanked me back behind him. Li Shaotang engaged in a scuffle with the newcomer, and it was only then that I recognized it was a Hui. Li Shaotang, stop fighting, I cried. Xiao Qi rushed over to intervene, but the two were blinded by rage and paid no heed to our pleas. We, with our smaller frames, could not contain them. The two towering alphas brawled in the corridor, quickly drawing the attention of the inn staff. What is happening? They inquired. Stop fighting, please. The staff scrambled to separate the two. I clung to Li Shaotang's waist, pulling him back, while Xiao Qi pushed a Hui away. Li Shaotang pulled me into his embrace and gritted his teeth, asking, Please do not tell me this is also your junior? A Hui, panting heavily, glared at him. I whispered, He is the tour guide. Can you please stop this? Li Shaotang squeezed me tighter, casting a warning glance at a Hui. Bystanders asked, Should we call the police? Xiao Qi hurriedly explained, No need. We all know each other. It's just a misunderstanding. We apologize for the trouble. I joined in the apologies. In the end, a Hui was persuaded to leave by Xiao Qi, and I managed to pull Li Shaotang back into the room. This commotion inadvertently provided me with a temporary reprieve. Li Shaotang bore multiple bruises and scrapes. I could not neglect his injuries and sought a first aid kit from the staff. He sat on the edge of the bed as I bent down to disinfect his wounds with a cotton swab dipped in iodine. Li Shaotang wrapped his arms around my waist, pulling me onto his lap. I sat there, irritated, and asked, Could you be a bit more reasonable? He replied nonchalantly, "Isn't this position just perfect? No need to bend over and tire yourself." As he spoke, he leaned down to kiss my neck, and I pinched his ear, pulling away. "Get off. The medicine isn't applied yet." Suddenly, he thrust his hips upward, causing me to gasp as I realized the change in his body. I was both exasperated and amused. "What are you doing? You look so beautiful when you scold me," he said, playing with my bangs. I swatted his hand away. "Do not call me that. I shall call you wife, wife, wife. You are my wife," he insisted, repeating the word with fervor. I dared not provoke him any further, lest he lose his mind and whisk me away once more. Thus I chose to remain silent. After taking his medication, Shaotang still insisted on having me sit upon his lap, wrapping his arms around me and burying his face against my chest, murmuring, "Wife, please don't abandon me. I truly cannot bear to lose you." This was his usual tactic, starting off with aggression to intimidate me, before shifting to a softer, more vulnerable demeanor, a blend of firmness and tenderness, until I yielded in surrender. I had previously succumbed to his charms entirely. This time, however, I could not allow him to triumph once again. I changed the subject, inquiring, "Have you encountered Ji Yunji?" Shaotang lifted his head, his eyes brimming with resentment. "Why do you mention him? Why would I want to see him? Ji Yunji is an exquisite beauty. Perhaps you might fancy his type." I began to elaborate, only to have him abruptly silence me with a fervent kiss, his lips devouring mine with a ferocity that left me breathless. He pressed my head firmly against his, preventing my escape. My lips were left numb and swollen, and only then did he graciously release me. Our noses nearly touching, he breathed unsteadily. "Do not utter such words again. You are my wife, and you shall forever remain so. Whether he is beautiful or not is of no concern to me." Dazed and lightheaded, I could not resist reminding him, "Only an Omega can bear you exceptional offspring." Shaotang swiftly turned me onto the bed, asserting his dominance over me. He unbuttoned his shirt, revealing his chiseled physique, with bruises still marking his face and a wild glint in his eyes. His lofty gaze left me utterly defenseless. I shook my head, pleading, "Please don't." He murmured softly, "Your mouth has a knack for uttering words that infuriate me. Hence, it must be silenced." My protests were cut short, and for the remainder of the day, I drifted in a haze. The following day, Shaotang resolutely refused to leave my side, clinging to me like a persistent piece of glue. Reluctantly, I had to bring him along for our archaeological expedition. I informed Shao Qi with great reluctance. "Shao Qi, I apologize, but Mr. Li insists on joining us." Shao Qi cautiously glanced at Shaotang behind me, quickly responding with a smile, "It's fine. Having an extra person can be beneficial." Shortly thereafter, Hui joined us, and the two alphas immediately engaged in a silent standoff. Although I could not detect their pheromones, I could sense the tension in the air. They were clearly at odds with one another. I leaned towards Shaotang, whispering, "Don't stir up trouble, or I won't take you." Shaotang remained silent, suddenly leaning in and pecking my lips in front of the two outsiders. Shao Qi and Hui's eyes widened in shock, and I sprang away in embarrassment and anger. Shao Qi attempted to ease the awkwardness, exclaiming, "Haha, the senior and Mr. Li are truly affectionate, making others envious." Shaotang maintained his arrogant demeanor, and I felt utterly embarrassed. Today, our destination was even more remote than yesterday's village, rumored to be abandoned. As we walked, I began to feel dizzy and breathless. Previously, when Shaotang was absent, I had endured my discomfort, even feigning indifference when Shao Qi inquired. However, today, upon noticing my pallor, Shaotang immediately supported me to a shaded area to rest, providing me with water and fanning me. With someone I trusted by my side, I found it difficult to maintain my facade of strength. Not wanting to waste time, I sheepishly suggested to Shao Qi, "Shao Qi, I'm sorry, but perhaps you should go ahead without me? I'll catch up after resting a bit." Shao Qi nodded and set off with Hui. No sooner had they departed than Shaotang swept me into his lap. "Your complexion is dreadful. If you feel unwell, we should return," he insisted. I shot him a glance. "Isn't it because you kept me up all night?" Shaotang shamelessly retorted. "I was starving for 3 days. Naturally, I had to make up for it. Could you not think of anything else?" "Nothing else fits in my mind except you," Shaotang declared, capturing my hand and pressing it against his heart, earnestly professing, "I love you to the point of losing my sanity. How can you not believe me? How utterly cheesy." My cheeks flushed, and I withdrew my hand. "Enough already. It's merely a matter of compatibility in bed. Otherwise, Why would you fancy an old beta man 8 years your senior? Li Shaotang was indignant. Compatibility is indeed a factor. But I've been enamored with you for a long time. The first time was intentional. I narrowed my eyes, intrigued. What do you mean by intentional? Li Shaotang wrapped his arms around me, confessing, I have long desired to be with you. Yet you always evade me, never returning home at night. I was left with no choice. Remember when we went to Jiangqing for my grandfather's birthday? That night, my sensitivity peaked. In truth, I had taken medication beforehand, knowing your soft-hearted nature would compel you to help if you saw me in distress. Fury surged within me as I twisted his ear. So you've been plotting against me all along. Who is to blame for your irresistible allure? Li Shaotang shamelessly countered. Even without pheromones, you drive me wild. With your slender waist and pert backside, your smile is both innocent and seductive. The moment you speak, I react. You are a siren born to entice me. You. I found myself at a loss, unsure whether to be angry or amused. Li Shaotang tightened his hold around my waist, coaxing, wife, let us reconcile? I admit I was too harsh before. I shouldn't have looked down on you. Please don't cast me aside. I struggled to remain composed, stating firmly, this is a different matter. An alpha and a beta cannot have a happy ending. Li Shaotang interrupted. In truth, you are simply lacking in security. Hear us the deal. When we return, I'll transfer all my shares to you. If I betray you, let me have nothing. I found myself wavering. Don't joke. Those are your family's assets. SNT everything that is mine also yours? As we spoke, I suddenly felt the ground tremble, followed by a thunderous crash as stones began to rain down. I looked up to see the hillside collapsing, a landslide. Before I could react, Li Shaotang had scooped me up and was sprinting away. The debris surged behind us like a roaring beast, and I was engulfed in dust, unable to open my eyes. Li Shaotang suddenly lunged forward, and I was engulfed in darkness. Drip, drip. A liquid fell onto my face, and instinctively, I reached out, my fingers brushing against something warm and sticky. I rubbed my fingertips together. It was blood. I opened my eyes wide. Li Shaotang loomed above me, trapped beneath stones and mud. Yet he strained to prop himself up with trembling arms, creating a safe haven for me. Blood streamed down his face as he grimaced in pain, his entire body quaking from exhaustion. Gritting his teeth, he urged, get out quickly. With great difficulty, I managed to roll over and crawl towards freedom. As I emerged from the pile of debris, I turned back to save Li Shaotang. Suddenly, the ground beneath him collapsed. Shaotang! I cried out, my heart shattering. I knelt down, desperately digging with my bare hands, while Shaoqi and Ahui's voices echoed in the distance. Senior! Mr. Li! Mr. G! I sobbed. He is buried beneath. Hurry! The two rushed to my side, joining me in the frantic excavation. The sharp stones tore at my fingertips, yet I felt no pain. Li Shaotang cannot die. He must not perish. That single thought consumed me. Soon, Li Shaotang's upper body was exposed, but he remained unresponsive. Together, we pulled him free and laid him on the grass beside us. Li Shaotang lay unconscious, suffocated. Ahui leaned over him, listening for his heartbeat. A hue of alarm washed over Ahui as he exclaimed, this is bad. His heart has stopped. My mind buzzed, and I nearly succumbed to unconsciousness. In a state of desperation, Shaoqi, drenched in sweat, fumbled with his phone, attempting to call for help. However, the signal in the mountainous region was abysmal, forcing him to wander in search of reception while holding his phone aloft. I collapsed beside Li Shaotang, overwhelmed by the thought that if anything were to happen to him, I would have no desire to continue living. This notion swirled incessantly in my mind. No, I must endure. I inhaled deeply several times, compelling myself to regain composure. I recalled the first aid skills I had learned during my school years. Cardiac arrest necessitates cardiopulmonary resuscitation. I interlocked my fingers, straightened my elbows, and, utilizing my waist to propel my arms, I pressed down vertically on the lower half of his sternum. Li Shaotang's chest heaved violently under the pressure. Subsequently, I cleared his airway, removing the dust from his mouth and nostrils, pinched his nose, and performed mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. After completing 2 cycles of artificial respiration, I resumed the chest compressions. My arms grew weary and numb, yet I could not cease. 3 minutes later, Li Shaotang was revived. He coughed a few times and began to breathe on his own. Ahui and Shaoqi rejoiced. He is responsive. He's back. My taut nerves instantly relaxed. Suddenly, I felt dizzy and, with a thud, I collapsed, losing consciousness entirely. When I awoke, 5 hours had passed. I found myself lying on a hospital bed, receiving intravenous fluids. Li Shaotang sat beside me, holding my hand, a bandage wrapped around his head. Weakly, I inquired, "Are you all right?" "I'm fine. I underwent a full examination. It's just a minor scrape on my head. Nothing serious," he replied, tenderly stroking my forehead. Truly, he was an extraordinary alpha, recovering his strength so swiftly. I mused with envy. Yet, all of this chaos had befallen him because of me. He could have been comfortably seated in his office. Li Shaotang murmured, "Rest well. You mustn't run around anymore. Honestly, carrying a child and still being reckless." My mind was adrift until the word child pierced through my consciousness. I stared at him, bewildered. "What child?" Li Shaotang placed his other hand on my abdomen. His brow furrowed. "Our child. The doctor has confirmed it. You are 5 weeks pregnant. How could you be gallivanting around with a baby?" This revelation felt surreal, and I suspected he was jesting. "Are you serious? I'm pregnant? At my age? Still a beta? How could I dare to believe such news?" The ultrasound clearly showed the gestational sac. "How could it be a fabrication?" he declared triumphantly. Do you think I'm just fooling around?" All those nights spent together were not in vain. His vanity was evident, but I could no longer absorb his words. I swore I would never have dared to dream of a day when I would bear Li Shaotang's child. So, my recent lack of appetite, excessive sleepiness, and dizziness were all symptoms of pregnancy? I had thought it was merely the result of aging and declining health. Li Shaotang kissed the back of my hand, feigning sternness. "Will you still dare to play hide and seek with me? Even if it takes me to the ends of the earth, I will bring you back." My eyes welled with tears. The harrowing image of Li Shaotang lying unconscious was still fresh in my mind. I had nearly lost him. Now, not only had he escaped danger, but the heavens had bestowed upon me such an astonishing surprise. All the fortune had fallen upon me. How could I dare to be ungrateful? Tears brimming, I clasped his hand tightly. "I won't run away. I'm not going anywhere. Even without a child, I would never leave Li Shaotang." In that perilous moment, he had risked his life to save me, and I would no longer doubt his feelings for me. Even if passion faded and life returned to monotony, I would possess the courage to face it all. The end of the tale. Thank you for listening, and until we meet again in the next story.